Hey everybody, before we start the video today, I just want to let you all know that my original graphic novel, Malevolent Rising Volume 1, is back on Indiegogo for just 2 short weeks. So at the time of this recording, you have 2 weeks, just went live today. I hope you check it out. It's a great way to support the channel. I don't do Patreon or any of that. This is really just all that I do. So if you are tired of just hearing me rant and rave about comics in Hollywood and want to see me put the money where my mouth is, here's your chance. Now, on with the review. So Hollywood used to be this awesome place where they could pretty much bring anything to life and make all your dreams come true and deliver us worlds that we could never even imagine. And it was a veritable golden age in Hollywood for decades upon decades. But lately, Hollywood's kind of fallen on a bit of disrepair, a bit of hard times. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to ask the question, really, how long can Hollywood keep sustaining this track record of just putting out failure after failure after failure in the name of trying to push an agenda that clearly nobody wants? So first, let's look at the timeline. So we've got Batgirl, which Warner Brothers spent $90 million on, and then new ownership came, took a look at it. By all accounts, it was just an absolute woke nightmare. And so even though they put $90 million into it, they pulled the plug, knowing that another penny spent on marketing or editing or refining or reshoots or what have you would just end up in a bigger loss. And even Michael Keaton's presence as Batman, they didn't feel was enough to save this movie. Probably, I'm imagining that his role was probably fairly small in the movie, and you know, good luck trying to bring in an audience just by expanding it by a few minutes. So yeah, that sung the death knell for Batgirl. And then shortly after that, the Batman new animated series brought to us by Bruce Timm was also shelved by Warner Brothers. I really don't have any idea what was the story behind this, but a lot of people seem pretty happy to see it go. I honestly hadn't even seen that it was being made. And then you've got Naomi, which was just an absolute disaster on the CW, and that's saying a lot by CW standards. If you are ranked as a bad show among the Arrowverse, then you have done something seriously wrong with yourself. Then we're going to travel on over to Netflix and look at the disastrous Cowboy Bebop, in which they did everything wrong that they possibly could. They took an IP that they had no business trying to adapt into live action. They decided to try to cram a bunch of modern Western sensibilities onto a product that came to us from Japan that's supposed to be a cowboy in space. And really, you've got to understand that those two things were never going to be, those sensibilities were never going to be compatible with each other. And then there was the absolute and unmitigated disaster that was Netflix's Resident Evil, where they handed fans something that not only didn't resemble the IP of Resident Evil, what everybody knew and loved in any recognizable sense, but it was just laden and absolute dripping with identity politics, with just pushing agendas forward. And in doing so, they couldn't even deliver a comprehensive script. They wrote their own plot holes and just gave us a mess of a series. And it too got axed after having a huge production budget and a pretty good advertising campaign behind it. Then you have Star Wars. Once was heralded as the greatest IP in the history of history. No film franchise had ever even tried to come close to touching the hem of its garment. And then Disney takes over ownership, gives us this disastrous prequel trilogy where they're just going to deconstruct the old heroes of the old series, try to forget and retcon out the prequel series, and just give us this new expanded lore in replacement of the expanded lore that they had just tossed to the wind. And again, they gave the fans a product that not only didn't look like or resemble the product that they wanted to see, but it was almost insulting to them. And now to the point to where a new Star Wars property that should just be a runaway smash hit struggles to find an audience because, again, they can't get out of their own way. They just slog in this idea that everything has to be representative, everything has to push a message, everything has to follow these unspoken rules that Hollywood just seems mired in that they can't get past. And what's it left to? It's given us empty theaters. When was the last time you tried to go see a movie and it was sold out? I went and saw Thor: Love and Thunder, arguably the biggest release of the summer, on opening day, and I was not only able to get a ticket 15 minutes before showtime, but I walked into a theater that was barely 2/3 full. And that was the latest not just the latest Marvel release, that was the latest Marvel release for an Avengers movie. And then you have the disaster, the bombastic dumpster fire that is the upcoming Lord of the Rings movie, where not only have they taken the name Lord of the Rings, the in name only Lord of the Rings, and replaced it with this fantasy world that doesn't resemble the world that Tolkien gave us at all, and they have sunk hundreds of millions of dollars in production company and given this show a 5-year commitment before the first episode has even aired, despite all the fan backlash, despite all the negative feedback, despite the negative reaction to every single trailer that has hit the internet. Their cast members, as of this week, have been on record as saying not only are they proud of the show they're putting together, but they are ecstatic at the way that Amazon has gone away from the lore of Tolkien. The people creating it themselves are celebrating the fact that they are basically giving you this bait and switch imposters version of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings world. And that just shows how out of touch these creators are with the audience. And then you got Disney Plus giving you She-Hulk, which is a show that is featuring a character that's always been very popular, a character that's got a built-in fan base, a character that's been around in Marvel for a while and is really considered a low A-tier character. This is a character that's been around for a while. She-Hulk has been an Avenger. She-Hulk has been a member of the Fantastic Four. She has carried her own series for many, many years. And you even took this fairly clever premise of putting a legal drama, the legal perspective of a superhero universe as a TV show, but it's absolutely mired in cringeworthy dialogue and just stare you in the face feminist messaging, which turns off half of your audience. And even the women watching She-Hulk have to just kind of cringe with a little bit of disgust at just how blatant and how unrealistic the show is written. So they've taken a good premise and they've absolutely drowned it in just this muck that is the agenda that Disney feels that they have to push in every single product and saturate every single offering with. And then when you have good shows and when you have good movies, those few diamond in the roughs that come along that make you say, oh, well, I'm either pleasantly surprised by this, and like in the case of Prey, or finally a return to former greatness, like in the case of House of the Dragon, it's still hampered in the idea that we had to have these representation boxes checked, that you had to have the certain obligatory scenes in there. You had to have the girl boss moment. You had to have the patriarchy speech. You had to all these things, and it keeps a good movie or a good show from becoming a great movie or a great show. It just keeps them that one rung on the ladder short of where they could reach, where they could aspire to, if they could just let go of the shackles of this messaging, let go of the shackles of trying to put this agenda first and story second mentality into everything that Hollywood has to offer. And then you look at the world of comics. Now, comic books were once heralded as this great IP farm. That was DC Comics' that was their rallying cry to stay in business. Is we are going to be the IP farm. We're going to give you stories. We're going to give you characters, and we're going to give you something to fuel these extended cinematic universes for years and years to come. And look at the state of the comics industry today. It's unreadable. This is just absolute trash. One manga can outsell the entire Western comic book market, and none of the studios have any indication that they're even considering the idea of possibly changing course. They are laden in politics. They are laden in these just bizarre identity hires where people are being hired simply for their race, or simply because they check the right boxes, or simply because they voted for X, Y, and Z and support whatever on Facebook and have enough Instagram followers to warrant them being given a comic book series, even though they've never read or written a comic book in their entire lives. As a result, you have this mishmash comic book universe where it appeals to everybody except the fans. Everybody except for who would buy your product. Yeah, it gets a lot of social media likes. You announce that Superman is now gay. You're going to get a lot of articles written. You're going to get a lot of shares on Facebook. You're going to get a lot of retweets. But at the same time, you're not going to get a lot of sales, because the people who are going to buy your comic, they really don't care about that. And not only that, that's not the character that they know and they love. And it's not Kal-El Superman anyway. It's Jonathan Kent, his son. So again, it's another bait and switch. And don't even get me started on Jonathan Kent being, as people who watch this channel over the years have known, I regard as the worst character in comics. But at the same time, this social media clout, these accolades that you get from these critics out in the media, these aren't dollars. These aren't tangible physical currency that you can pay your creators with, that you can invest in better projects, you can invest in bigger print runs, that you can invest in keeping these comic book stores going by giving them products that are going to bring fans into the stores to buy your comics. So all the retweets in the world aren't going to keep your doors open. So how can we combat this? Well, the only way we can combat this is the way we kind of are, which is you need to starve them. And the only nourishment that these companies have is money. And so withhold your money, withhold your dollar, withhold your precious subscriptions until they can find it in their minds that they can start to banish this thinking, this belief that they have that this product that they are offering just time after time is not a product that we're going to want. That's not a product that we're going to support. That's the only way to get through to them. That's the only language they understand. And a lot of these companies, when you're talking about Disney and you're talking about Discovery, you're talking about all these, they've got a long way to fall. They are on a mountain of money so high that they can't even register us down here. So what we need to do is we need to bring that money mountain a little bit lower. We need to get their gaze down back to the fan and let them know this isn't what we want. This isn't what we want to see on TV when we sit down and we want to forget the concerns of the world for 30 or 45 or 60 minutes. We don't want to sit down and then just see the politics of the day and see the struggles of X, Y, and Z minority or X, Y, and Z gender or whatever. We don't want that. We live that. We live that. We hear about it. We have to deal with it every moment of every waking day that we live. All we really want is to be able to sit down every now and then, watch something entertaining, watch a ball game, watch a movie, watch a show where that stuff just doesn't have to be part of the storyline. It doesn't have to be part of the narrative. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to be present. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to be touched on. You can do it in an entertaining way. You can do it in a story way, an organic way, a way that people will appreciate, but especially a way that we can put the story first and the agenda second. That's really all fans ask. That's all we really demand out of anything is just story, just entertainment. That's all we want from these companies. And it's the one thing that they kind of refuse to give us lately. So that being said, I want to bring it back to a form of entertainment that I love, which is comic books. And I want to talk about my book for a second. And I thank you all for tuning in for this video so far. And again, thank you all. Do the usual YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe to the video. I know this is a bit of an awkward transition at the end. I'm really sorry, but you know how it goes with these videos. I just kind of sit down and start talking. I put this comic out specifically to combat the type of stuff that I'm talking about, which is just a simple story, simple, relatable characters, something fun, something escapist, something that puts the fans first. And what I think, talking to all you guys in the comment section, what I think that I've heard that everybody says that they want, what I know that I wanted as a fan. This is the kind of book that I would have loved to have read and collected when I buy comic books, and I kind of hope you guys feel the same way. So I hope you guys head to Indiegogo, put a link in the description. Please just give it a look, maybe even back the book, get a copy for yourself. It is just a 2-week program or a 2-week campaign because Volume 2 should be done by the end of the year, and I'm hoping to have that by November or possibly December if all goes according to plan, supply chain problems and everything aside. So yeah, I really hope you check it out, and let's talk about this state of Hollywood in the comments below. I really want to know what you guys think. Is there something out there, a diamond in the rough, that you guys have found that you guys like, that you want to shout to the rooftops? Because I think we really need to amplify and get attention drawn to those things that are doing things right. Things like Arcane on Netflix is a brilliantly written show, and what's amazing about Arcane is even checks those diversity boxes, but it doesn't in a way where you know they put the story first and they populated it with characters that had more depth to them than just their sexual orientation. It was brilliantly done. Let's talk about things like that. Let's talk about things that we love and make this comment section as mired in negativity as this video was. Let's try to see if we can get something positive out of it and get some recommends for the other fans out there. And I'll be on there talking to you guys. I will talk to you on the next video. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging in while I rant, and I will see you on the next one.